there's a completely insecure side to cooking because you're judged on a daily basis. And so you need to know what you're doing and you need to perfect. But the more I learned about food, the less insecure I became. So that turning point for me was actually believing that I could do this. You know, I've got my own style. I can create something that nobody's doing, and I can give you food that, you know, you haven't tasted before. I knew my dream one day was to come back to London, open up my own restaurant. I was 27 when I opened my first restaurant. In many people's eyes, that was too young, because what do you know at 27? But I was starving. You know, I was ready. I was like a dog with 9 dicks. I was ready to go. You know, I had all these mentors that were sort of pulling at me and wanting me, and that was a great position to be in, but I was keen to stand out on my own, so I got offered 25% of a restaurant that had previously gone bust in a shitty little area, the back of beyond Chelsea in Fulham. So we couldn't think of a name, and then all of a sudden, you know, late one night, we're trying to think of fruits and vegetables. We came up with a name called Aubergine. We opened up with a bang. It was this tiny neighborhood bistro. There was 4 of us in the kitchen and 4 waiters in the front of the house. And I thought I had my own business. I didn't have my own business at all. I just got given 25% of a restaurant that had a lot of debts. And then within weeks, this place became the talk of the town. And it was just, you know, a neighborhood bistro cooking great food. But I was on a mission. I was raw. I was cooking food like no one had seen in London for a long time. It was incredible finesse, deep flavor, but a light interpretation. So it wasn't thick, rich French cuisine. We were so fucking poor in those days. When the truffle man came round to our restaurant, I was asking him for broken bits of truffle. We couldn't afford whole white, black truffles. These things were £2,500 to £3,000 a kilo. So I was asking him for truffle shavings. He looked at me like, you know, I was some pauper, like I was some skivvy. We had oxtail, you know, we had cod, we had lentils, we had no extravagant ingredients, but it was an extraordinary beginning. I remember every dish, every plate, and every critic that reviewed us. Every time we got reviewed, I used to go straight down to the train station on a Friday night, Victoria, and wait for the papers coming in for the weekend, sit there to 2, 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, waiting to see that review in the Independent, the Times, the Mail, and understand what these critics were saying. And we had to wait a year until the Michelin Guide came out. We opened up in September. The guide didn't come out to the following January. And then bang, you know, the 17th of January, 1995, we got our first star, which was just incredible because it was that confirmation that we were good, but we were starting to rattle a few cages and we were starting to piss off a few big chefs because I was the one that had come back from France with something new and a little bit different. So the hallmark was there, the foundation was there from what I'd been taught by all these amazing chefs, but I had my spin on it. One little tiny change was a cappuccino white blanc with white truffles. And this was this amazing haricot blanc bean soup, a stunning bean soup, but it was an aerated, light, fluffy, rich, delicious cappuccino style soup that was served with, you know, grated fresh truffles. And that was the beginning of the sort of signature dishes that started to lift that restaurant. It was incredibly successful. You know, it was fully booked for 6 months in advance, from Salman Rushdie to Lady Di, you know, to Tony Blair, you know, you name it. We had this restaurant, you know, full on a weekly basis. You could not get in for love of money. I won 2 Michelin stars at Aubergine, and the dream, of course, was 3, but Aubergine was not the vehicle. If I was ever going to go and win 3 stars, there's only one fucking name that was going to be above the door, and it wasn't going to be Aubergine. It was going to be Gordon Ramsay. So I had to convince my wife that we're going to sell our apartment to raise money to put into a business that I wanted to own 100%. Tana turned around and thought, you know, you're fucking mad. You know, we just got on the property ladder. Why are we selling? I said, well, I need money. She said, yeah, but this is our house. This is our home. I said, I know, but I need a deposit. We haven't got that great a reputation that banks are going to throw money at us. I need to put money into this business. 1st September 1998 came. Tana and I were in rented accommodation. Our daughter had just been born literally 4 months prior to that. And yeah, I had the world on my shoulders. I was ramped up beyond belief. I decided to have a documentary called Boiling Point follow me across the 12 months of opening that restaurant. And it was a fucking shitstorm because the celebrity chef world on TV was just all starting to boom, and there was this fucking maniac that was on a mission, and I wasn't carrying any passengers, and I'd forgotten anything to do with a camera crew watching me cook, and it was intense. It was really intense because I was desperate to win that 3rd star. I was on that mission to sort of get this business successful. We left Aubergine in July, and that September, in the same year, we announced that Restaurant Gordon Ramsay will be opening, 3 months later. So the phone system went crazy, off the hook. Every goddamn critic came in to turn me upside down and give me a great fucking sideways. And so it was, again, on the chopping block. I started to realize, how much of an impact that restaurant was having, because it was becoming more and more prolific, and we were climbing every guide. It cooks 40 lunch, 40 dinner, 5 days a week, one team, one dynamic team, the best restaurant in the country, one of the best. It has to be seamless every day. But there are so many things that go on behind the scenes to make it that magical. 57 staff with 38 seats, the ratio is insane. But it's a trinket box that runs to perfection. It goes from this neighborhood local restaurant to a renowned address within London, then it becomes a destinational restaurant across Great Britain, and then it becomes a worldwide phenomenon in a way that we're having customers coming from Australia, people flying in from New York, and it was just becoming so sought after, and you become focused even more, and the team get focused even more. I didn't know much about business then. I couldn't understand a balance sheet. I had no idea. But what I did do was break it down myself. And so I got taught a very simple lesson early on in business. Businesses are sort of divided into 25% quarters. So if you turn $60,000 a week, you break it into 4 parts. And the 4 parts are the following: 25%, labor costs, 25% purchasing, 25%, rent and rates, and then 25% bottom line. So your last week in each month is your profit. Your first week is your staff, your second week is your overheads, produce, and your third week is your rent, and your fourth week is your profit. And that's what keeps the business afloat. And to this day, I still use that analogy because it's a really great way of just simplifying the importance of making a business successful, because there are so many chefs that go bust. We have this generous, sort of overzealous confidence about pleasing people to the extent that you could put yourself out of business by becoming too generous. I remember when I got told the night that I'd won my 3rd Michelin star in 6 fucking years, 3 Michelin star. The next call that came in was from Guy Savoy and said, I still haven't won my 3rd star. To think that you have been in my kitchen, you've won your 3rd star. I've been cooking 15 years longer than you. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased that what I gave you, you've taken to another level. And it was just that moment thinking, shit, I've done it. I've got where I wanted to go. I've got to the very top. I don't know how important, food can become on top of this. And when that inspector sits you down, 2 of them, and say, Gordon, in the forthcoming publication of the next guide of Great Britain for the Michelin, your restaurant's been promoted to 3 stars. Everything goes really quiet. Man, everything just goes, it's hard. it's fucking amazing because everything you ever wanted is like, bang. And then you think of all the shit. You think of all the bollockings and all the discipline, all the mornings you've woken up and you're fucked and you can't get out of the bed, but you push for that one thing and it's just, yeah, it's amazing. When I won my third star, I think that was the bit that, scared the crap out of me, because Tana sat me down and said, look, you're 34 years of age, we've got Megan, and if you don't change, you're gonna kill yourself. Your dad passed at 53 as a heart attack, and you gotta slow down. So I started shitting myself, thinking, I've just built this incredible restaurant, I gotta let go. I need to open up. That's exactly what I did. From becoming one of the most selfish fuckers anywhere on the planet with knowledge and obsession and drive and perfection, I had to go in reverse. I had to share everything I had in me, on me, with me. I took chefs under my wing. Yeah, I sort of, I made them sort of mini-me's. So yeah, I created some monsters, which they've gone on and done some brilliant things in the industry. And they've become thoroughbreds in their own right. But there's a very strong side to me that demands so much, but then there's a strong side that gives so much. And those that are loyal, understanding, determined, focused, they get it and they get me. And that's what that teaching aspect started to implode. And I had to become the most unselfish individual and start giving everything I knew, had, touched, flavored, off. I had to stand back. I needed to stand back because it was such a machine that it would have killed me. Just turned 50. I remember being in Paris, going to work for Joe Robuchon, and 6 months into working in his kitchen, he announced that he's retiring at 50. And I thought, you selfish fucker, how can you do that? I've just got to your door. I'm busting my ass off in your restaurant and you just announced your retirement. So the thought of me stopping now at 50, shit, I don't know. I mean, what the fuck would I do?